No, it's something going on with our Facebook. Edit. Nothing has says the broadcast is live already. We're live. Okay. Yay. Running a little bit late. Let us go ahead because we having technical difficulties. Thanks the world of technology. I'm gonna go ahead and put our intro on and we'll get this thing started. We don't have to do that again. Okay, yes. Yay. Masonia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Are
hear
we
you.
here? Okay, I just want to go ahead and prelude this way. Everybody at the Well Project is my WCW for today, okay? I don't know how we are able to, just get through these technical issues. Every week is always something, but we are here and I'm so grateful. So, hello and welcome we're already on our 5th episode of A Girl Like Me Live. In this episode, I'm so excited. We have Masonia Traylor here. We're going to talk about pregnancy and HIV. This is a part of the Well Project's new live streaming series, A Girl Like Me Live, which is a series advancing health and wellness discussions and education among women living with and vulnerable to HIV. Every 2 weeks, Ci Coleman will sit down with different co-hosts to chat about key topics in our community. Like I said, we have Masonia today, and I am so excited. So first, I'm going to ask you, Masonia, to introduce yourself and the affiliations you may have, and we'll just get this thing started.
Okay. So my name is Masonia Traylor, pronounced Masonia, and I am living in Atlanta, Georgia. And as far as affiliations, I am a community advisory member of the Well Project, and I am a member of Positive Women's Network and CEO and founder of Lady Burgundy, a nonprofit organization that services women living with HIV and AIDS.
Only because I know you, I feel like you're leaving some stuff out, but I'm going to let you live. Okay, I'm going to let you live. Okay, so yes, and pregnancy and HIV. How does this play into your life? Like, how does pregnancy and HIV even go together?
It's how it all started for me. Like from the very beginning, um, pregnancy and HIV is all that I learned from the very beginning because when I was diagnosed with HIV 10 years ago, I also found out that I was pregnant within the first 14 days of my diagnosis. So I learned about HIV and how to navigate it after I gave birth. So,
It used to be hard.
yeah, it was awful. It was terrible. I know
But
that's
it
not
was
every.
all at the same time.
Yeah, it was rude. Life wasn't kind.
What came first? Was it the pregnancy or was it the diagnosis?
It was a diagnosis. I got diagnosed on a Friday. I went to the infectious disease special. I went first of all, I got diagnosed at my OBGYN. So I went to go get tested for all STDs because that's what I used to do, like regular. Do I still? I guess I still do that. Um, um, get tested annually for all STDs, just to go back and encourage my friends to get tested. Because a lot of them were like afraid and stuff. So I'm like, if I do it, you can do it. You got this. Um, and then on that Monday, which was within 72 hours, I went to an infectious disease specialist that was highly recommended to me from the OBGYN. And they were, at the OBGYN, they told me, that you can still have babies, and we have women here living with HIV that we've birthed babies. And I'm just like, I ain't studying no baby right now. I don't want no baby. But while I was there at the infectious disease specialist, within a week, I realized my cycle is late. Something ain't right. So once I told my doctor that my cycle was late, she kind of took a deep breath in the side, because I was struggling with wrapping my mind around the HIV diagnosis, and I didn't know doctors was going through it too. It was all about me. Um, and within like the next week, when I got tested, she did a pregnancy test, and she came back in the door, and she leaned against the wall, and kind of her shoulders dropped, and she was just like, "Yeah, you're pregnant." And I was like, "Okay."
Why she had to be so dramatic? Why the shoulders had to go on the wall and drop?
Because she loved me, and she knew that I was struggling. I was her special child as soon as I came in the door. Like, um, I was scared that people wouldn't want to touch me. I was like really apprehensive about like everybody that I was meeting. It was extreme. It was overwhelming. I met like 7 people in one day at one doctor's office. I had never experienced that before. But this within those 2 weeks of knowing this nurse practitioner, my provider, she had already prayed with me, prayed for me. I don't know if she broke HIPAA laws or anything, but she was calling me every day, because I'm pretty sure I was suicidal. I'm pretty sure I was having a breakdown. I was crying every single day.
And that was just because of the HIV diagnosis.
Right.
And then you get a positive pregnancy.
Yeah, then I found out I'm pregnant. And not only am I finding out that I'm pregnant, now I got time to decide, do I want to keep this baby or not? Do I
Are
want
you about to cry?
I've already started.
Me too. Okay, come on.
Let
Go
me go
ahead.
get the tissue. I'll be right back.
I'm just gonna sit here. I have a washcloth right here.
You
I
gotta
already
watch.
got tears in my
Why
eyes.
you ain't tell me?
Okay. Okay. We're like 8 minutes in.
Okay.
Okay.
I got a whole roll of tissue.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Why am I crying? It was 10 years ago.
this is emotional. Okay, so who was in the office with you?
Okay, so nobody.
Nobody.
Nah,
Not at the HIV diagnosis neither.
nah. It was rude. I told you it was rude. Okay, so I don't know how somebody else being on that side of it, right? Like, even myself having worked in a pharmacy, being behind the counter servicing someone else living with HIV, right? But if I was working as a medical assistant trying to call people and let them know about the diagnosis, I don't know how I would have told them, hey, you might want to make sure you bring somebody in the office with you. Is there somebody that can come with you? So before I went in to find out about my diagnosis, Lord, I feel old now. Um, they had just started putting a system together where you could check your labs online. Like, it wasn't accessible to all doctors' offices yet. And I didn't realize how privileged I was, because I had health insurance. And I went in to my portal, that's what they call it. And when I went to the portal, it didn't have any of my lab results yet. And I'm like, yo, wait a second. Where are my labs? Why y'all not saying nothing? And I've known this practice since I was 11 years old, when I started my menstrual cycle. So, like, I knew everybody there. My mom goes there. Like, they knew me. I was 23 by then, so we talking a good 12 years in. And they delivered my first child, which was 7 years prior to my diagnosis, my son. So when I called up there and I was calling certain nurses and stuff, and I was like, yo, where are my results? Why are my results not online? And like, Masonia, can you please come in? And I'm like, why? I don't have no gas money. I'm broke. I don't. I get my car broke down. Um, I'm riding public transportation, so I gotta plan it. And if I miss any day of work, that means I gotta make up the hours at another time by switching shifts with somebody else because I'm working in the pharmacy and retail, and every hour counts. When I called up there, they didn't say anything about bringing somebody, but I do remember saying, okay, it can only be one or two things that they're about to tell me. Not that I'm pregnant. Either they're gonna tell me I have cancer or I got HIV. Because I had just had a biopsy for HPV and they saw some what do they call it, like non-cancerous cells or something, like benign cancerous cells. So I was already like in this waiting hole of, do I have cervical cancer? Like I was sitting in that. I was kind of prepared for some kind of bad news. And even though HIV had crossed my mind, I was like, no, I can't be no HIV. I tested last year and I was negative, so we good. And no, I didn't have nobody with me at either appointment. I just kind of went in head on.
Girl, I ain't take nobody with me neither. I thought I was going. They was gonna tell me I had BV or something. Like I thought it was gonna be something simple.
I had
No,
none
it was gonna be no damn
of
HIV. And
I
now I'm
know.
sitting in this office with two white people, like this older white man and this nurse that like she was so insensitive. And I felt so lost. And I was like 20 at the time. Um like
20.
20.
Wait,
I was
were
20 when I
you were in college?
Oh, yeah, I just told this story last night. So, like, I got tested right when we got out of school because I wanted to get on birth control because I just didn't want to get pregnant. That was
Oh,
always my
okay.
thing. Like, and it's so ironic that we're in this pregnancy and HIV conversation because I just didn't want to get pregnant. And now I have both of them. So, I wanted the birth control. May something I go. I think my diagnosis date is June 4th because I too on a Friday tested and they called me back on a Wednesday. And June 4th. This was about to be the summer though. Like this was I
Hot
just got
girl
out
summer. You
my
was about to be lit.
that was about to be the hottest girl summer before there even was a hot girl summer, right? So that that just changed everything for the entire thing. I just got out the junior year. I was about to go into senior year, had my own apartment, job card. Like I
Yes.
was doing
Yes.
things. HIV
Yes.
wasn't going to find me. It was never on my radar. Like you people like me, it sounds so ignorant now, but people like me would never get HIV. Like I got good grades in school. I
Wait,
made my
wait,
own
wait.
money.
Let's roll back to the ignorant part. Mine was, you got to be gay to do that, to get that. You got to be gay to get that.
Yeah, and
That
or
don't
a
happen to
drug
women.
user or something. Like it
Yeah.
just wasn't me. Even though I was having sex, but it just because those was my friends, those was my friends I was messing with, and my friends
They
they
don't do
don't have
shit.
HIV. That was the dumbest.
Yeah. So mine was more like, okay, so I'm in a relationship, right? And like I really like this guy. We've been kicking it for like a couple of years, and I ain't dealing with nobody else or nothing like that. But even though we cool, and I'm starting to like mature a little bit and see that this probably won't work out, and then I'm starting to notice, oh, he dealing with other females. I'm not, bro, that ain't gonna work for me. You put me like at the highest risk of risk. So I'm out. And then, once I'm leaving that relationship, I met somebody else over a chess game and I'm like, oh, you got a college degree and head on straight. Let's roll. You nice and you showing up for me, consistent. And within 6 months I found out I'm HIV positive. And then I find out I'm pregnant. I'm like, dang, okay, so now I gotta go back to the person I was dealing with for like 4 years, let him know I'm living with HIV so he can go get tested for all the other females that he dealing with because he probably dealing with more than one still. And now I gotta let this new dude know that I'm now pregnant by that. Although I told you last week I want to break up, now I'm pregnant, so I guess we can work it out. That's how that went.
Yo, when I got diagnosed, I still was trying to finish school. So babies at that point, like I knew I wanted to have kids one day, but now it was like, can I have kids? Now that I have this diagnosis, can I? And the lady seen the one at the clinic who probably didn't have all the information in the world. She didn't seem very hopeful, and that didn't make me feel very hopeful. So then I went to Google, and Google, even in 2008, was full of a lot of misinformation and a lot of things that could scare you. So at that time, I started like looking up the life expectancy of someone living with HIV. And so to add to my 20 years, I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I got 20 years left on this earth. If I go ahead and have a kid within the next couple of years, then I can at least see this child through high school. And
Wow.
it gets scarier and scarier each year. Although I know that, 20 years was a short time to put on my life, I'm getting kind of close to those years. I'm 33 now. So from the time of my diagnosis, I will only have 7 years left to live. Yeah, I know I got more than 7 years, but now I also have, a kid, and I want to see him do more than just high school. I want to see him do college and
We're not supposed to be crying on this. Okay, so all right, I can totally relate to that. But to know like that's how you were like planning your life. I had already had a kid, so definitely wanted to be there for him. But my plans were like, you know, one day I'm going to be the matriarch of my family. So I'm going to be the main cook because I've been doing this since I was a little kid, and I learned from my grandma how to cook. But now that I got HIV, if anybody find out, nobody gonna want to come eat my food because they're gonna be scared. And then the other thing about like dying, like I remember like although I worked in the pharmacy and I dispensed medications to people living with HIV, I never asked them questions. I never understood like how, and I would ask like my coworkers and stuff because I knew by looking at which med they were taking that they had HIV. Um, and what I learned, well, my thought process was, I wonder how long do they have to live? And I never got a chance to ask. So when I got diagnosed, even though people were telling me, like I had the support, I had people, pouring into me, telling me, "Hey, you are going to live. You're going to be all right." Um, but I didn't believe it. I didn't understand it, and I didn't believe. Even though I'm dismissing medications, I didn't believe in taking a whole bunch of them. So now we in there, and the doctor's like, "Listen, you're not gonna have to take no medicine unless like you're pregnant or whatever. You seem to be doing fine without it. It's okay." And I had already put in my head, "Yo, I plan on going to France. I want to go to Paris. I want to travel the world, and I'm supposed to be on some exchange highway with my son with the drop that with the drop top convertible, just he and I." Until I decided I want to get married, I'm going to finish school overseas. I had been looking up how to get dual citizenship and everything, but I thought I had like 6 months to a year. I just 6 months to a year, but I just couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that you're telling me I have something that I cannot see, I cannot feel, and it's not making me sick or anything. But that quickly changed because while I was pregnant with baby girl, I was sick the entire time. I mean, I kept throwing up. I unfortunately graced the walls of the infectious disease specialist office within 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks after I found out I was pregnant there. most embarrassing thing ever.
Did you start HIV meds as soon as you got pregnant?
No, not at all. Not at all. I didn't start taking. I was asking for the medications, although I wasn't convinced that I was going to take them. I was just like, I need them in front of me, like something to anchor me a little bit more than going to the doctor. Um, they started me on medications within my second trimester, because that was the guidelines at the time. And so I wasn't on medications for a while. So I was in my head for at least 6 months about what's getting ready to happen to my body. Was they're talking about viral load and T cell counts and showing me paperwork, and I'm doing natural herbal remedies, looking up stuff. I got people telling me, here, just take a teaspoon of olive oil every day. I tried it one time and I was like, that ain't gonna work. Something
Not
about this
the
don't make sense.
alkaline water neither. It didn't do it.
It, some they was talking. I was already eating healthily. I mean, I grew up that
No.
way. That's how I grew up because I got eczema. So drink alkaline water. You know, that was my thing. I didn't want my face breaking out, my arms breaking out anymore, turning black, and like having scaly skin and stuff. But no, none of that. I was already eating healthily and stuff. So in my mind, I had
Mhm.
came to a conclusion that maybe I'm okay because I had already been taking care of myself, like exercising, working out, eating more fruits and vegetables than meat. I rarely ate beef at all because I didn't grow up eating beef. So it was just different. I don't eat pork, but you got people that eat all of it and still okay and
So
healthy.
you were like so health conscious and then ended up with a human immunodeficiency virus.
Yeah. I was health conscious because my immune system has always been compromised since the day I was born with jaundice. So my mom had been like, listen, we're gonna make sure that not even just we, she said she's gonna make sure like my child, I'm not gonna be the reason why her health is going to be on the declining side. I'm gonna do, make sure she eats healthily and stuff like that. Now that I'm grown, she eat whatever she wants. She back on the pork bacon, she eat fried foods. She said that was just so that you can't blame me if you get sick. Okay. But
So, okay, the meds in pregnancy. So, I'm grateful enough with this pregnancy.
wait,
I
this
haven't been,
pregnancy.
yeah,
You
7 months pregnant this time. So, like back in 2008, when I didn't have that hot girl summer because of HIV,
uh-huh.
there's no hot girl summer 2021 either because of pregnancy. So, I guess that's how this
So
video
all
went.
that whining you be doing on your in
All
your
that
stories.
whining, I mean, and everybody says that's how I got pregnant, but it probably is not. It probably was a different position. But oh God, 7 months pregnant now with this one, and this is 10, almost 11 years after my first child. And I always bring to light the fact that so many women that I know have had the experience of having babies not being positive. And so you have something to kind of compare it against. All of my pregnancy experiences have been while I've been positive. So having all of that, having to take the medicine and having to be in high risk. I don't know what it feels like to not be in a high risk pregnancy. I don't know what it feels like to not have to worry about viral load and make sure that I'm undetectable. I don't know what it feels like to be able to breastfeed. Um,
It hurts.
don't have those experiences.
Well, I guess I was so young when I had my first kid. So I was 16 when I had him, and I never considered it a privilege to be able to say that I've had those two experiences to compare and contrast. However, I can say that like my pregnancy with my daughter was so rough on me. Um, Postpartum depression. Um, she was bigger than my son, so she stretched my body out in ways that was not familiar with, was not comfortable with, um, and I worked throughout my entire pregnancy with her up until um, a couple days before I was to deliver. And they actually took me off the schedule because I was just going to keep showing up. Like, you're not going to, I need to work because if I don't work, I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills next month. So during my pregnancy, finances were a huge, huge deal for me. I didn't have a lot of maternity clothes. I didn't have shoes. I wore Crocs my entire pregnancy. I didn't feel pretty. Um, I did my own hair. I had my hair in the afro. Don't pour no water on my hair right now. It's gonna shrink. It's gonna look crazy right now. But I used to wear my hair in the afro all the time, and you know, I was just struggling. Like, yeah, I had my first apartment, so I remember just telling my mom, "Listen, I'm going to reach out to these agencies and see if they can help me as best possible." So I was able to get 1 month worth of rent covered. So the 6 weeks of recovery after having a C-section, that was all that was given. And I had already started looking into like housing programs that service people living with HIV and AIDS. And the hardest thing for me was one of the housing programs was right next to my job, and nobody at my job knew about my diagnosis yet. Um, they watched me throughout the whole pregnancy, be at work every day, standing up all day in the pharmacy, feet swelling. I just kept going, but I didn't. I was so terrified of stigma. I didn't want anybody to know about my diagnosis at first. If I was going to be walking from where the housing program was to my job, they're going to know because they already told me, "Oh, they live up the street," and I'm like, "How y'all know that?" They said, "Oh, because we know." And I'm like, "How?" And so that's how I started meeting other women living with HIV because they came to the pharmacy and I started disclosing by writing on the back of their receipts. I take the same medicine as you. Um, and that kind of started how I was able to find someone like you um, living with HIV as a young Black woman. Um, the first person that I started talking to had twins, and her experience was one was born with HIV and the other one wasn't. So talking to her helped a lot. This is after I had given birth to my daughter, but it that was my only like main outlet until I started until a friend of mine passed away from complications of AIDS, and then I started speaking up more and meeting more Black women, um, and doing more research and stuff, and started learning more about HIV and asking more questions. But the pregnancy itself, I was so sick, CC. Um, I tell you, I'm proud of you and how you've been navigating your pregnancy, being high risk, because you're doing so well. And when I think of how sick I was and how strong I was being, I didn't realize that was strength. That medication that I was taking at the time was so potent that I would take the medicine, upchuck, and it would be sitting in the toilet. And I'm like looking at it dissolving somewhere in the toilet. And I'm like, I'm not taking this medicine anymore. So at 7 months pregnant, I stopped taking my HIV meds completely. I was
Look, come on, I gotta
done.
stop you at some point because you just keep saying so much that I want to respond to.
Go
So I'm gonna
ahead.
go back a little bit and talk about the intersectionalities that you keep referring to. So you're talking about being poor and pregnant. That by
Yes.
itself, pregnancy by itself, poverty by itself, being Black by itself, living in the hood by itself, like all of these things by themselves are stressful. Like to say that I needed to stand up on my feet for 1 hour to afford bottles, which we've talked about before, to afford a bottle,
Yes. Yes.
that like is mind blowing. one
Minimum
hour
wage.
worth of work so that I can get one bottle. Let's not even, think about the rent or the lights or, the formula that you might even need to put inside of that bottle.
Oh, WIC didn't always give enough, by the way.
No.
So,
They said it's just a supplement. It's not to get you through the
so
month.
I used to try to find people who had food stamps to help me buy WIC. to buy a formula, because at the end of every month, I wouldn't have 1 to 2 jars of formula left to be able to feed the baby, because I was told I couldn't breastfeed. And although I wanted to try, I really understood that at the time I'm poisonous to my child. I am not a quality, 100% quality mother for my child, because I don't have this golden liquid to breastfeed my child at the time.
No, that John was poison. It was literal, and you had people watching you to make sure that you were not, harming this child. That's how I felt with Zion. And I went into great postpartum depression after having him because I felt like, my body could get him here, which it did, but it didn't even carry him the whole way. He was born at 33 and a half weeks.
So
So
wait, I can't count that. What's that?
I,
33 and a half.
I was in my 7th month, 8th month,
Okay, okay.
7th month, I guess. I don't know how to count these weeks either. But he was born early, so I already kind of failed him there. And then to fail him even further by not being able to feed him, everybody else could feed him. He didn't need me. Like I clearly, like I wasn't good enough for him. I was okay. I don't want to cry again. I'm going to go back to the part about God, because I'm kind of feeling that way now, but I have more support this time around. Oh, when you were talking about how you was writing on the back of the receipts to get to other women who were living with HIV, I didn't have that. That it feels like I don't know. I didn't have that. So I was just telling my business all the damn time. I was telling everybody I'm living with HIV, hoping that somebody would in turn tell me that they was living with HIV. Because if I got it, that means that other people had the
But
HIV. But I couldn't find nobody and I needed the support so bad. That summer after my diagnosis, I went back into school and I did an internship at AIDS Athens, which I'm so grateful for because then I met a girl who, with her husband, they were pregnant. And that, I remember that just making such a big impression in my life. Like, I could get pregnant. I never knew what the outcome of her son was. I saw, like, because I would follow her on Facebook, like, the son got involved in sports and stuff. I never knew what his status was. But just the fact that she could give birth to a child was, yo, I could do that too.
I'm gonna grab the roll again.
This is, I mean, this is kind of ghetto. But
Okay, so okay, so like okay, so what I'm thinking about right now that's making me so emotional is like, okay, you were diagnosed in 2008, right? And from my understanding, you was here in Georgia.
hmm
I got diagnosed 2 years later in 2010. I needed you so
no,
bad.
I needed you. What are you talking about?
I was like, how you down South Georgia? I needed you so bad, like so bad. I mean, I met older women that had children and stuff, but for some reason at the time, of course, young and ignorant, I could not process what they was telling me because you talking a whole nother. Your kids grown. Your kids are my age. Um, I just couldn't hear them the same, and I kept asking, "Where are the younger women? Where are the women like me? Where are they? Where are they?" And it took for me to meet a young lady by the name of Heidi Broadbent, and once I saw her videos and things like that, and seeing that she came from being born positive, I was like, okay, I could get through this. And then I was pregnant at the time when I came across hers. And I was like, okay, so even if my kid is born positive, my kid's still gonna be okay. My kid, we're gonna rock this out. Like those were my fears. They kept saying, you can choose between C-section or a vaginal delivery. It's totally up to you. And I'm like, this is pressure. This is so much pressure. And a C-section, you gotta cut me. I don't want nobody. I've never had major surgery before.
So
Um,
you vaginally birth your first child?
yeah, I had a vaginal delivery of my first child. Um, I almost went natural with that birth, but my mom was like, "Why don't you just go ahead and get the epidural? Why don't you just go ahead and get the epidural didn't even work." um, and to have that C-section and choose your date, and the child actually comes on the date that I chose, it was so weird. I got to choose between, do I want to be in the hospital on 4th of July, or do I want to watch firecrackers first and then go have the baby afterwards? Like, um, and although I had the support, I still was just so unsure and not convinced. Like, all of the people at the doctor's office, once they found out that I wasn't taking my medicine in the 7th month of my pregnancy and that my viral load had spiked and I only had a month and a half to get it under control, um, they were like, "Masonia, we don't want this baby to be born positive. We've been doing this for 25 plus years. We've never delivered an HIV positive baby. Please get a C-section. Please listen to us and take your meds." And this is around the time where all the new one pill medications were coming out, the combination drugs, where you had at least three medications in one pill. And I was taking the number one medication for women who were pregnant, the only one that they was recommending at the time. But that medicine had me so sick. I didn't know if it was the pregnancy, I didn't know if it was HIV, or if it was the medicine that was making me sick. I was beyond miserable. Beyond, I was floating through life. People would be like, "Oh, hey, Messiah, hey." It was a fake smile the whole pregnancy. I was not happy about that pregnancy. I wasn't happy about my son either. Either pregnancy was not one of those, "Yay, we're pregnant. We're getting ready to have a
People
baby."
have those experiences.
Yeah, yeah. They planned the pregnancy and everything.
Sounds like another thing. Sounds like trauma. Pregnancy and trauma.
Oh, I laugh at it because it's so amazing to see so many different stories and how we all navigated and the purposes that the stories can fulfill, and helping and healing other people through their journeys. So,
So you took yourself off of meds while you were pregnant, and I took
mhm,
mine off after I birthed him because I hated the medicine. The medicine made me feel worse than the actual virus itself. And the straw that broke the camel's back was he was about a year old, and the medicine kept having me in the bathroom, like with really bad diarrhea.
mhm, mhm,
And we were driving on one street here in Philly, and I made it from one McDonald's to the next McDonald's, and I had to go to the bathroom. So it's just me and this 1 year old in a public bathroom. I was not going to keep putting my child through that. Like, how do you do that? Comfortably use a public bathroom, period, and then to have this 1 year old like not touch nothing in the bathroom. So screw it. I don't need this medicine. I'm all right without it. I take my chances, and that's how I pulled myself off one of the first times.
So my resentment towards the medication, not just while I was pregnant, but even after the pregnancy, was I'm working in this pharmacy. I don't make enough money to afford health insurance outside of public health insurance. I get dropped from my mother's health insurance because I'm now 23 years old and the state of Georgia did not expand Medicaid. And it was just a mess until Obama got in office, right? And they extended the age to 26. So I was in limbo during that time, because of the government and our policies at the
They
time.
don't just make sure you get medicine anyway because you're living with HIV.
Well, they did have the pregnancy Medicaid, but that ended within like 30 days after I gave birth.
So what you supposed to do after that?
I don't know. I was pissed because working in the pharmacy, you know how much the medications cost without health insurance. So here I am. I said this was the definition of insanity. Here I am counting the medications that I have to take. So it's reminding me I have HIV while I'm at work. I'm cringing at it. But not only am I counting these medications, I can't afford to pay for them. Even if I had health insurance, I still did not have the $50 copay. I knew about the copay cards, so I was like really big on advocating for people when they would come in and need medications. If I noticed that they were only taking one or two meds and not a combination drug of at least three, I would contact the doctor's office and say, "Hey, y'all messed up. You need to fix this. This. I don't know what y'all doing, but y'all need to fix this." So for me, I had this love-hate relationship with the medications, not because of just how it made me feel when I would take them, but also I can't afford it.
What about the meds for the babies? Your baby had to take medicine, right?
Did yours?
Yes, for
For how long?
like 7 weeks or something. And I
Okay.
cried every time I gave it to him too because he cried, and I felt bad because only reason why he had to take that medicine was because I didn't use a condom and I contracted
Right.
HIV all them years ago.
Definitely. I went through the same emotions. I think that's one of the biggest things dealing with HIV is you have to sit in your own emotions for the decisions that you made. But on the flip side of it, you did something great by still being able to, take care of this child. Like,
It
you were
don't feel
gifted.
great though, because the
No.
baby was sitting there crying and throwing this shit up. They don't feel great.
So with me, I did have to get a baby medication for at least 6 weeks. And for the first 6 weeks of her life. And I wasn't sure how's this medicine going to impact her. And when people would ask me, why are you getting baby medicine? Because I didn't want to put it in the bottle, and I wasn't told if I could or not. But, family and friends are coming by to come see me and the baby within the first 6 weeks to make sure we're all right. I had not disclosed to my daughter's grandparents on her father's side, and I had not told a lot of friends either. Like I had told maybe a handful of people about my diagnosis. I was trying to make sure that she was HIV negative before I shared my status and started speaking about anything, right? Because if I outed myself, I automatically out her, or I start lying about her status if she's positive or negative. But I was considered high risk for two reasons: because I was HIV positive and because I had hyperthyroidism. So I had an enlarged goiter, which I still do now, and I got diagnosed with Graves' disease before I had HIV. And while I was high risk at the they at the perinatal high risk specialist, they was like, "Yeah, we're not worried about your HIV," and I'm like, "That's weird." Um, and then they said, "But what we're really concerned about is your thyroid." So with the medication, I would tell people it's thyroid medicine. I would take the labels off of my medicine. I would take the labels off of her medicine, and I would just say it's for her thyroid. It's to keep her thyroid, in check so that she can still have her hormones produced naturally, and she won't have to take it for the rest of her life. So I was just a line. I,
Look, I want to this conversation literally could go on for days. Like I
of
could
course,
see.
it could.
I want to get around to, here at the Well Project, we engage our community advisory board members, we engage our community. And I just want to make sure that I get around to, the questions that they posed before this session. So we had the question of, do your children know what HIV is?
Kind of. So my oldest is 17. He's 17 years old. And yes, he knows what HIV is. He can do HIV 101 and explain to you what it is, what it does to the body, how you can get it, how you can't get it. Um, and he's fully aware to the extent that I've had conversations with him about if he wanted to date someone. I thought I turned it. I did. Why is it ringing? It's it's off. But if he wanted to date someone living with HIV, he has an understanding and a willingness to support someone healthily with an HIV diagnosis. So he fully understands that. He knows about PrEP. Now, baby girl, why are you crying? Oh, okay. Okay, baby girl. I don't know why you crying. Baby girl,
I
she.
don't want to cut your story off. Go.
So baby girl knows about HIV, and she can talk about it and everything, but she doesn't necessarily know about it's transmitted through sex. She does know that it can be transmitted through bodily fluids and hygiene because she's only 10 years old now. So we're of age that I think is appropriate to now transition from talking about hygiene to now talking about sex. Um, so for her, she can mention HIV, she can mention AIDS, and be maybe a little bit like oblivious to the stigma behind it. Um, I'll give you a funny story to make you laugh while you're crying,
Okay,
real
I'm
quick.
ready.
Real quick. Okay. So we was walking home from school one day, and the cross guard was, "Hey, mom, hey!" And baby girl loves the cross guard. So the cross guard usually lets her hold the little stop sign for a little bit and everything, and then she goes, "Mom, what do you do for a living?" I said, "Well, I do policy and advocacy work in HIV because I made a promise to myself that if you don't ask me directly, do I have HIV, I ain't gonna say it unless there's a purpose." So my baby girl, Marissa, she says, "My mommy HIV." Next thing you know, the nurse, Marissa is the real. I'm going in the street with her to hold the stop sign because the crossing guard doesn't start breaking down crying. She just blurted. I said, she's only 5 years old at the time. And my mommy HIV. I'm like, oh God, you can't just tell people like that. They ain't gonna know what to do.
So that's the battle that I've kind of, found too, because I have presented it to Zion as like this nonchalant, mommy has a virus, and as long as I take my medicine, I'll be okay. And I at the beginning of his life it was a lot easier because he was taking like the prenatal vitamins and stuff. Not prenatal, the Flintstone vitamins, daily multivitamins. I'm taking prenatals, so I would give him his vitamin while I'm taking my medicine to kind of like normalize it. um but then I worry now, if that was too much for him at the time, like if he carries any guilt, not guilt, but fear, that something's going to happen to mommy because of this virus. A virus just sounds nasty, not necessarily nasty, but sounds dangerous. Sounds like something's going to happen to you. It sounds that, and I know that I went through a certain period in my life where I was so afraid and still am so afraid to lose my own mother. And I don't know, if he disguises those emotions behind other ones. And once again, this is because of decisions that I made when I was younger. And you'll have people sometime, so why would you even go? Why would you
And
have
get
kids?
pregnant. Why would you
Why
even
would
have
you do that?
kids?
Why do y'all keep? Cause I want, cause I want this. Like I want the kids. I want, that extension of me. But then the mental part and the forgiveness for my own self. Some days is better than others. And now to be pregnant with another child feels I'm happy, but I haven't let my guard down too much because she's not here yet. I don't know, what the outcome is going to be. You hope for the best, you pray for the best, but you still don't know. I saw Ebony, she wrote that her child had a false positive.
Oh,
I
that's
would have lost
scary.
my mind.
Yeah, that's scary. I think that I, now that I think about it, I did the same thing around the vitamins. Like, and there's so much that happened. I don't remember a lot. And this is one of those moments again that, I don't remember things. But with my son, he has expressed, when he was in third grade, that, oh, HIV, stay away from me. So I had to teach him a little bit deeper about compassion. And it was hard to have the conversations around death early. Um, but I know that he's afraid that I may die. So I do try to make it a more of like a matter of fact type conversation. And I have more than one health challenge that, presents itself physically, emotionally, and mentally for my children, where I guess this is where a different level of strength comes in for them in how they perceive and appreciate life, and appreciate having a mom so they don't mistreat me because they can get, my son's a teenager. He could have went sideways real quick. Like, Mom, you ain't got no money. You da 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 da. How you have a kid out of wedlock? And he's never been that kid. I think if anything, my diagnosis created just a heavier level of love and appreciation overall. And that guilt, I think about getting pregnant again. And I feel really confident that when I decide to, my children will all be okay and they will know that life happens. And it may not be HIV, it may be something else. It could be lupus, diabetes, it could be anything else. And they will still know that it's their choice to get up and find the good in all of it. HIV positive seem to be such a terrible negative thing, from working in the medical health field to being young, to being a woman, to being black, to being heterosexual, to being unwed, that I have had to find the positive in it. I said, I got to find the positive in it. I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to be mean. I'm going to be evil spirited. I'm going to hurt people. And I'm probably going to end up in jail because I'm angry, you know. But seeing you and others, granted, it's been 10 years, but I made a promise to myself again, that I'm not having no kids until I get married. I don't want you just telling me we're going to get married. I want to be in a healthy, loving, secure, supportive relationship, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and a mature relationship as well. But it would be nice to be able to bring another child in the world. And I do still consider HIV, but that's not the, I thought it was going to be the biggest thing that I'm going to ever have to conquer, but it's like peanuts.
Girl, no.
I'm like, why was I crying then, and why do I cry about it now? It was the emotions, but it's peanuts to like
It's
be
my
able.
mental health. It's the waiting on this test back from the gestational diabetes. It's the knowing that women of color experience things like preeclampsia and they die and the babies can die. Like HIV is a factor, but I feel like that part is controlled. I think being this age now, look, I'm done resorted to my hands. I think this age now, I'm a little bit more privy to, all of the things that could happen versus, just being happy that I could have a child living with it.
Ignorance is bliss.
Most definitely.
Not knowing something, you get to stay in a happy space because you don't know. And then when you have knowledge, there comes a burden with having a certain level of knowledge about things, because you just have the added on anxiety and the what ifs, because you understand and so you get to be more proactive though when you have the knowledge rather than just reactive.
Absolutely. And I'm a J. Like, I don't really cry this much. So what y'all saw today was a fluke and it was hormones. So what we're going to do is go ahead and, continue to carry this baby to term, and this baby's going to be fine. And we are going to do things like continue to advocate for other women to, have babies
Take
if
care of
that's what they choose to
themselves,
do.
look good.
Yes. And if you want to, breastfeed, that should be a choice of yours. That actually is one of our upcoming sessions with Heather O'Connor. I'm so excited. That is, I think August 11th. You can, be in these healthy relationships and not accept one just because somebody's throwing it at you, so that you don't become, another unwed mother if that's not what you want to do. Because I made that mistake too. I was married and now I'm divorced and all of that because I just was accepting just anything. So we are here. We are thriving. These babies are here. They are thriving. And we just, you live by example. You lead by example. Just continue. But, you have moments of vulnerability. And I think that it's important that we give ourselves that space too, because it can be heavy, can be extremely heavy. And I'm glad that there is a community of support, women that actually understand.
You know, to watch someone go through their pregnancy. I've had the honor and pleasure of being a peer to quite a few women um, living with HIV who had their fears around taking medications while they're pregnant. And thankfully, the guidelines have shifted where you can stay on the same medications for the most part. Some people they do have to change for different reasons I've seen, but most of the time you get to stay on the same meds now. Unlike when I started out, I had to take that one medication that was so potent to me. But I think it's so beautiful and so wonderful to see and know that you can still have a life regardless of an HIV status. And as a woman, that you can still choose to bear children if you want to, and you can still choose to breastfeed instead of these choices being no, 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 don't do that. Or
They
you
not
can't
making no
do
more
that.
decisions for me. No more choice. No, this is my life. This is
This
my
is your
body.
human
And
right.
we And I got people that'll back me up. I'm no longer just having to tell my business, hoping that somebody else would disclose to me as well. I have found my tribe, I found my community, and it just continues to grow every day. So as I continue to, strengthen myself up, I allow that to radiate outwards. If we have that sister, out there who hasn't found her tribe, who hasn't found her community, I always will big up the Well Project. Like this is such a great place, a great, point of reference because you can find people. If my story don't resonate with you, maybe Messiah's, maybe Joe's, maybe Maria, any of our
Like
members
you
of our
said, we got
community,
so many.
and they all over the place. So you are not alone. Never are you alone, and I would never want another person to feel like that. Never.
Yeah, I think that if you're HIV negative and you're watching this, like, do whatever it takes to stay that way. If you're dating a male and he happens to be HIV positive, do whatever it takes to stay negative if you can, please. Like, make sure you prioritize that because it doesn't have to be something that's in our community. It's 100% preventable, 100% manageable. But if you don't have to navigate this side of it, try your best to stay HIV negative. And if you are navigating this side of it and you happen to be a man, you want to have a baby with someone that's HIV negative, you can do it. If you're HIV, basically, we didn't really talk about Sarah discordant couple, but basically, for me, each person I've dated, well, excuse me, I've never dated someone living with HIV, and it wasn't just by choice; it just happened to be that way. I just, I didn't feel like after a while I learned and understood and affirmed myself that just because I have HIV doesn't mean I have to settle for this personality, this attitude, or devaluing myself or devaluing the other person just because you have HIV.
You sound
That
like you talking our dating and HIV episode. We I think me and Marissa did that episode.
Yep.
Yes.
And
Yes,
so
yes.
when I think about pregnancy and HIV, all of that comes to play a part in it. But you have more than just hope. You have real life things that you have the opportunity to live for. So
Absolutely. I'm so grateful. I want to go ahead and right now throw in a reminder of we have evaluations that are available. Can't believe we made it to our fifth episode of A Girl Like Me live so quickly. Like these have been awesome. This has been great. I have never cried so much. Like I literally might need to take a nap. Like I think I might have to because my eyes are going to be all puffy. But we're interested in knowing how these episodes and how these sessions have been helping you. Have you learned anything? Have you shared them? Would you share them? And the link it has been put into our comment section. So if you could just take a moment to fill that out, I don't know, get that information back would be so good. I want to
yes,
know.
please, please.
Yes, thank you. Um, Thank you, Masanya.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Cece.
being here. I don't even want it to end. I like wanted to go to 4 hours since we was late. But people might got stuff to do, so I'll let them go. Is there anything else that you would like to leave the people with?
Yeah. definitely check out the next couple of episodes as they're ongoing. And if you have any more questions or suggestions around some things and topics that we all can talk about, definitely reach out. And if you're interested in being a part of the Well Project, definitely reach out in regards to that. Share, share, share. And I love you. I'm so grateful to have shared this space with you, Ci.
I know. I love you too. Okay. Womp womp is over. All right, everybody, have a good day. I'm going to read our little outro and then we're out. So, thank you for joining the fifth episode of the Well Project's A Girl Like Me Live. Please join us again in 2 weeks on August 11th. We will be discussing breastfeeding and HIV. Um, and that will be with Heather O'Connor. So excited. We look forward to seeing you then. So, thank y'all. Have a good day. Let's play our music to go